Yeah, I know when we've had conversations with other CIOs in the Bay Area, they'll say, fail early, fail soon. And if you can't provide a value within 90 days, many of them cut the project. And if you're a systems integrator, consulting company, that could be a pretty tight timeline, right, for some innovation. So yeah. Well, how would you suggest, speaking of that, getting the buy-in from, the executive teams, the stakeholders, for example? You talked a little bit about in the article about establishing, a committee that kind of oversees things. So in your career and in your experience, how have you gone about putting those keystones in place where you have that steering committee, where you have that executive buy-in? How did you go about that process and what did you learn from it?
It's again, it's art, and it's not a science, to be honest, and especially when you're dealing with stakeholders of that powerful stakeholders. We have to address the problem what they are facing. If I'm sitting across the table with a CRO and then I'm talking about a problem with the finance, that may not take it. And the problem which I could have a conversation with the CRO and say, hey, the things which is being done in the sales are really impacting the CFO. I think you both need to talk, or we all three need to come together and then talk about how do we solve the problem as together, not as siloed. We all know that, team is what makes it, and results produce more better results than as individual. So that's the notion we need to take. I think as the leadership start to see the problems or the issues being created in the upstream has a huge impact on the downstream, and they do realize it, and sometimes they don't have enough resources to dedicate it, and that's where I come in as a business technology person and say, I understand you both have two different set of problems, but really the problems are the same because that's being created by one is impacting the other. But if we bring those, all of us come together and then take the responsibility of the problem within your own area and then see how that impacts or solves the other area, then we can achieve we can embark on that journey. So that is how I look at it. We normally sit down with the CRO, CFO, and the CMO, and then the success CSM leader, and then see how each one, what kind of problems they are facing, and then what's the common problem they are really up against, and then how a technology can solve that problem to streamline everything. So it's a journey I had to go through at Aryaka, even before in my prior engagements, where business needs to tell us, are they ready to solve that problem? Because if they say there is a problem, but they are not committed to put their resources to do the job, then it's very difficult to solve. Because any of these transformation initiatives, I would say business has a 50% commitment, and the technology team comes and does the another 50. So they have to be not only committed to see the end results, but they also must commit for the resources. It could be their own resources or money or whatever it is. They have to really invest into that. And look back into now, we just released the project at Aryaka. I can see the number of hours spent by my finance leadership team. My sales is mostly, really, to be honest, it's a sales. 80% of the time went on to sales. Then CSM team along with it. We had so many discussions over the months. Even during the COVID, it was just the calls were going left and right and day and night to talk about the problems. And then, their commitment is what brought us here. If they have not committed, I would not be succeed.
Yeah.
So it's all leadership commitment. They have arranged, they put their people along with, they put the funds to make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. So that's a good point. To what you said at the beginning of that, it's an art, not a science, and that really is kind of the way of life, right? It's an art, not a science.